So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. It's almost Thanksgiving. Aren't y'all so ready? All of the good eating and the food and the family and the laughs. You should hear the Hannon family laugh. We can carry on and tell stories. Sam is the middle of 3 boys, and they were as ornery as they can be. Still kind of are, but good husbands and daddies and professional men. But I'm telling you what, when we get them all together, when we have our big Thanksgiving feast together with the Hannons, they start telling stories and carrying on, and it's something else, something to behold. Anyway, as a matter of fact, one time my brother-in-law got tickled and he leaned real far back in his chair, and it broke my sister-in-law's chair because he was laughing so big. Sorry, love ya. And that story has now become one of the ones in the arsenal that we tell every year at Thanksgiving because, it was hilarious. Anyway, one of the things that is absolutely iconic with Thanksgiving is dressing. There's dressing that we bake in a 9x13 casserole of some sort, and there's stuffing that you actually put inside the bird and stuff it. See how that works? We are making dressing today. It took me a while to learn how to make a good dressing, and it is absolutely at the top of Sam's list. He loves dressing. And he told me the other day, he said, I love dressing so much that you don't have to just make it for Thanksgiving. It can be any time of year, which to me it always seems to be so holiday, like beside a turkey, beside a ham with the cranberries and all that. Well, he told me that he gets it every, I don't know what the day is, but y'all will know, Tuesday or every Thursday or Wednesday, something like that, at Neil's Cafe in Springdale. They have chicken and dressing, and he loves it. And so I decided that I would make him a chicken and dressing at home because, my goodness, that's my heart, is to feed him what he loves. And, I love to cook, so it kind of worked out real well. And he loves this. And no, he didn't, he still probably gets it at Neil's. But I'm going to show you how to make dressing at home, and it will actually get you completely ready and prepped for the holiday season to go with your Thanksgiving meal and your Christmas meal. So let me tell you, I have all good things, start with onions and celery. They just smell like the holiday to me. The smell of it simmering on the stove and sauteing down, getting good flavor. And that's what we're going to do right now. Dressing always starts with onions and celery, okay? I know that there are a million ways that people make their dressing. Some people do stuffing, do sausage. Some people do oysters. Not me at all. I'm a pretty classic Southern dressing girl. We're going absolutely classic on this, okay? So we're going to do, I know some people put fennel in theirs, but we're just going to go good old-fashioned Southern cornbread dressing. And this is how we get going, all righty? I have just a little saute pan on my stove. Actually, you know what? I may need to get a bigger one. That may not be quite big enough, but we'll see. And we're going to give these a little cook down on the stove with a little bit of butter. This morning, I got up and I made buttermilk cornbread, good old-fashioned buttermilk cornbread. The recipe for the cornbread will be included with this recipe, okay? So I'm not showing you how to do it. It takes about 30 to 35 minutes or so to cook the cornbread, to bake the cornbread. So we weren't going to do that today, but I have it sitting back here in my skillet with a little wedge cut out because, you got to taste what you're making. Had a little trial there. It's delicious. Okay, I may be in trouble in this skillet, but we're just going to do our best. Okay, I'm going to melt that butter down. I've got my onions and my celery chopped down, and we're gonna put that in and let that saute in a minute. And you want them to be pretty tender. They're not gonna cook a whole lot more once they get in the dressing. So you really do wanna kinda get them nice and tender right now in that butter. We're gonna save this other half of our stick of butter. This is 4 tablespoons for the end. And let me tell you, at the end, we're making this chicken and dressing. And at the very end, we're gonna brown some butter and just infuse the flavor of that butter with some yummy sage. And I do a little drizzle of browned butter sage all over the top. It sizzles, it soaks in, it flavors it. It's just one more depth of like richness and goodness in our beautiful, beautiful casserole dish full of Southern cornbread dressing. Okay. We're gonna stir our veggies and let them saute, and then when we come back, we're gonna work on our cornbread and our bread and show you how all of it comes together to make a beautiful holiday cornbread. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. If you're just joining us, we're making good old-fashioned dressing, chicken and dressing. What's so nice about this particular recipe, and again, like I said earlier, there are about 1 million ways that people like to make their chicken and to make their dressing. What's so nice about this particular recipe is it could be your side item for your holiday cooking, or it could be a main dish because we're putting good pulled, like torn bits of baked chicken in our dressing. So for us, if I were making this just during the weeknight, which I don't very often because, like I said, I'm in the camp that dressing kind of feels like holiday. Sam would eat it every day. But if we were making it just for the regular weeknight, it is hearty enough that you could serve it with a little cranberry on the side or cinnamon apples. That's what we do a lot. It could just kind of be your entree because you've got sauteed veggies and you've got your, breads and your pulled chicken. And so it really kind of just becomes a one bowl wonder. Or it's perfect beside your holiday meal, like as a wonderful side item. I put a little bit of torn chicken in mine. If you were doing this at the holiday and you wanted to have a little pulled, turkey in yours, you could. But today we're just gonna go ahead and do it with our chicken. So I told you I've already made my cornbread before and it's completely cooled. I also I just laid some, this is easy, so listen to this. It'll be in the recipe, but listen to how easy this is. I took 3 chicken breasts, laid them on a sheet pan, brushed the top with butter, heavy salt and pepper, and I baked them in a 400-degree oven for like 25 minutes. Perfect. It just cooks those right through. They're really tender. They have a little bit of like a kind of a little crust, salty crust on the top. Really easy to make baked chicken breasts. And because, we're just wanting the meat for this, for the dressing, it didn't have to be marinated and we didn't have to pound it. We didn't need to put it on the grill because we didn't need to get all of that extra flavor. We just needed to bake the chicken. Easy, easy, easy. So I've pulled that. Okay, so we've pre-made our cornbread. We've baked our chicken and I've got it already just pulled in a bowl. We're sauteing our carrots and our celery, and then just in a separate bowl from our big bowl where we're going to do all the work, I have whisked together 2 large eggs, and then we're doing 4 cups of chicken stock, and that's like this 32-ounce, this 32-ounce carton. I've taught y'all how to make your own chicken stock. I always burn through mine, and I probably need to have like a big day where I make 57 jars of it all at once and keep it frozen. I have actually burned through all of my chicken stock for the season. So I probably have time to make a little bit more. You can always use a good store-bought. Choose chicken stock over broth. It costs a little tiny bit more. It's generally cooked down with the bones, and there's more flavor. So that's why. Okay, we got our liquid prepped and ready to go. I'm just going to turn these guys off. Let those just kind of sit there and finish kind of cooking down. We have 3 pieces of bread. You can use white sandwich bread. I use kind of like one of those, kind of more of like a specialty loaf that's more of like a farmhouse or something that says Hearty White, you know those. It's a little bit, just a little bit sturdier bread. And I've laid 3 pieces out. I didn't dry them in the oven. I didn't leave them out overnight. I just let them sit on the counter while I was kind of getting some prep done. And I'm just tearing these, crust and all, into some little bites. This is so easy. I think for years when I was, early in my cooking, I had this idea that dressing was so hard and I could not possibly do it. And I really didn't even try for a long time because I was so intimidated by it. It is so easy. I mean, I hope you're just watching how simple all of this is. Easy as it can be. And then I have my one recipe for my cornbread in here. So I've torn my bread, taken my dried cornbread, kind of dried out and cooled out, and I'm gonna tear it just with my fingers. This is what's so great about the dressing. You could make your cornbread 3 days in advance. So, when you're doing your holiday cooking, choose side items or desserts, anything that you can do that has a few steps that you can do in advance, and it cuts down all the work on the day of. So for this particular recipe, you could have the chicken done and in a container like I have. You could make your cornbread in advance, and then all you have to do is saute these veggies down and mix that liquid, and it's done. Isn't that easy? Told you. Okay, I'm going to throw some cornbread, and then, did I throw cornbread? I thought I did. I don't know, it went missing. I'm gonna eat it if I find it. I'm gonna keep tearing this cornbread, checking on our little vegetables over here. When we come back, we're gonna put it all together. I'm gonna show you a really rich, yummy butter that we're gonna put on top. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. If you're just joining us, we're making a good old-fashioned cornbread dressing that can be a perfect, classic, rich side item on your Thanksgiving table. I was intimidated for years because my husband loves it so much that I really didn't try, and then I just decided I was gonna learn, and it sure is easy, y'all, and it's really, really good. You kind of can't substitute it. As a matter of fact, my husband, we were talking about this recipe last night, y'all. This is so funny. He was telling me that Mama Grace, Sam's grandmother, was always the one who made the homemade dressing. Well, she lived to be 100. And so, she was hosting and cooking for Thanksgiving for years. And they always looked forward to Mama Grace's dressing. And he said, I told you he's the middle of 3 boys. And he said one year they showed up to Thanksgiving and there was store-bought, boxed dressing on the table. And he said it was like, you would hear like the record screech, you know what I mean? Like, and they all just kind of sat and looked. And then they really razzed their Mama Grace about, what happened? And she said, honey, I've just gotten so old. I just can't do it. This is so much easier. And so Sam said that they would always go around the table and say what they were thankful for. And he said, I wanted to say nothing. Because he was so bent out of shape that it was store-bought and not homemade that he had a hard time being grateful that year. Isn't that ornery and rotten? I know it. Anyway, you can't go wrong with good homemade dressing. That's the moral of the story. So, white bread that we've torn, cornbread that we made really, really easy, let it cool, tore it, sauteed, I keep wanting to say carrots because carrots, celery, and onions are like, the trinity of cooking. No carrots, just celery and onion. And we sauteed that down in butter, poured that into our mix, and now we have our carton of chicken stock and 2 eggs, which kind of serves as a binder, so it kind of, holds it all together. Okay? And then I'm going to get my big spoon. You need a big bowl to be able to put all this in. So always start with a bowl that you think is bigger than you need. Get your biggest bowl. I'm going to just toss this kind of scoop down and under and kind of get it up and over. So we're sort of combined. Then we're gonna do a couple of teaspoons of sage, about 2 teaspoons of sage. You know, this is Thanksgiving in a little jar right here. And then we're gonna do about a teaspoon of salt and a teaspoon of pepper. And that right there, that salt, pepper, and that ground sage is what really starts to give your dressing the color that we are used to seeing. And those little flecks and bits of flavor in those seasonings. Ugh, this smells fantastic. Okay, so it's kind of wettish and stirred around. And then all I have to do is put in my chicken. And again, made this in advance so that I don't have to do all of the work all at one time. So I'm gonna stir this. All we have to do to this is put this in a 400-degree oven for like 30 minutes. And what it does is the top gets crispy and kind of dried out a little bit. And then inside is still tender and moist and so flavorful. There's so much flavor in this, but it's just so simple. Isn't it easy? I'm encouraging y'all, if you've never made your own dressing, today's the day. Well, maybe not today. Maybe next week on Thursday or Wednesday. You can make it in advance. Okay, so there's that. Then you want to get your prettiest baker, because after all, we want to be oven to table on Thanksgiving, don't we? Beautiful piece of bakeware that bakes in the oven, and then we can serve it. So I've got my beautiful new baker from Unimaze, and you could grease this if you wanted to or butter it, but honestly, I've just never really needed to, because there's just enough of everything good in here that it kind of comes up without any trouble. Ugh. Pour that all in. Isn't that fantastic? It got on my finger. Then I'm gonna take my dressing spoon and just kind of gently pat it in. How about that? And then this just bakes y'all 30 minutes or so, 35 minutes in the oven, not even covered. How easy is that? Look at that. Now I'll tell you, at this point, if you wanted to get this far in your holiday prep, you could cover it just like this right now with saran wrap and put it in your refrigerator and leave it. How about that? Cornbread in advance, chicken in advance, make your dressing in advance and cover it. Bring it back out and let it sit get about room temperature. You may need to splash a little of like reserve chicken stock in there. Just give it another little stir and then stick it in. I'm here to help. Making it easy for you to host your holidays. This is going in the oven. When we come back, we're gonna douse it in yummy browned sagey butter. This is cooking today.
Rice, sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are wrapping up beautiful, classic Southern cornbread dressing. A little bit of pulled chicken in there makes it so nice and hearty. If you wanted to even just have it as a main dish, you could take the chicken out if you wanted to and add turkey for your holiday season, just to have a nice little meaty bite. We have baked that. It's gotten so nice and kind of crispy, dried out on the top. And then it's all wonderful and kind of yummy and moist and tender on the inside. And then what I like to do at the very end, when my dressing comes out of the oven, is pour a little bit of browned butter with sage right on the top. And all there is to know about browned butter is you just heat the butter over medium heat. It will start to foam and kind of separate, then it turns kind of golden, and then it turns this wonderful nutty color. You'll see the fat solids like kind of separate and they brown and they start to settle at the bottom, and that's when you pull it off. And that's what we've got right here. You don't want it to be too dark. And now for the final yummy step. In our dressing, I pour a little layer of the browned butter right on top. It soaks in and adds more moisture. You don't, when you use your browned butter, right at the very, very end, there are the brown pieces, the sediment. You don't want to use those. So we want to pour on anything else. And it smells amazing. See how easy that was? Southern cornbread dressing with sage brown butter. It's what's for dinner. It's Thanksgiving season. Try this recipe at home and love every bite. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton. Rice, sponsored by Mars.